Welcome to today's professional development. As you're coming in, please sign in so that we know that you're here today. And feel free to help yourself to some of our donuts and juices we have provided for you. If you look up at the front, we have today's agenda. We're going to be looking at some data, talking about a lagging skill set we can focus on from the data. We're going to be talking about what we can do for that targeted skill and ways that we can improve it. We're going to practice, and then you're going to walk away with some next steps. Up at the front, you'll find something that is called a parking lot. Now, what this is you have some sticky notes provided on your table, and if at any point during the PD today you find yourself with a question, you may write it on the sticky note and add it to the parking lot. Now, if this is just a general question, then you can add it to the regular parking lot. But if this is a question that you feel you absolutely need to have answered before you leave today, add it to the emergency parking, and I'll do my best to get you that answer right away. We're first going to be looking at some data from the reading assessment. This is a norm referenced assessment, which means the scores are compared to students of a similar age also taking this assessment. This is given 3 times a year. And as you can see, I have the arrow pointing at 5th grade because for today, we have all the 5th grade teachers from the district. So we're just going to be focusing on the 5th grade scores. In the green, 41% of our students scored at the benchmark. In the orange, 59% of our students scored below the benchmark. This next assessment is the Ohio ELA test. This is a criterion reference assessment versus last time being a norm reference. This one is compared and not based on other scores of students, but on a set standard and goal of that skill. This is given at the end of the year and is based on standards. And as you can see, it shows Ohio, our district, and then it splits it by elementary schools. But since we are all together today, we're just going to focus on the overall district scores. So we have 181 students in 5th grade. And today, we're going to be looking at the reading literary text part of the assessment. And as you can see, I have the arrow pointing at those results, which show 17% of the students in red scoring below proficient, 29% in yellow at or near proficient, and 54% in blue, which were above proficient. These are the items and content statements on this Ohio State test of the different standards focused on. But for the purposes of today, we're going to be focused on just one. We're going to be focusing on comparing and contrasting 2 or more characters, settings, or events in a story or drama, drawing on specific details in the text, for example, how characters interact. Students could get a possible of 2 points on this question. We had 43% of our students score incorrectly on this, 11% receiving 1 point, and only 46% receiving 2 points. Our hope is that today you'll be walking away with a strategy that you can use in the classroom to increase the student mastery of comparing and contrasting, which will hopefully help the rest of those students on this part of the assessment. So the strategy we're focusing on today is annotation, which might come as a relief to you because you could be like, I know what annotating is. And the reason you know what annotating is because it's not a new strategy. This is a strategy that's been around for a long time. Guthrie and Tabota Barber are in the Best Practices book from 2019 talk about annotating being a way that promotes cognitive interaction, metacognitive thinking, and discipline-specific understanding of the text. They discuss how it invites students to really slow down, reread, and interact with the text that they're reading. A lot of the time, students answer and talk about things at the end of the book, but annotating really allows for those students to do it throughout the story and gives it more of a meaningful purpose. They also talk about how annotating can really give us teachers a look at what the students are catching and what they are missing. This can help us guide whole group or small group instruction. All right, you've got this. So what I want you to do is I want you to turn and talk with the people around you about annotating. Is this something you're already doing? If so, what does it look like in your classroom? If not, what could it look like in your classroom? You guys are going to have about 5 minutes to do this. And when your group is ready, give me a thumbs up. And I'm hoping that a few of you would be willing to share some of your discussion with the group. All right, now that you've had some time to share it and we discussed out, I think it's really interesting to hear how some people are already doing this and how it looks in their classroom, or how some people think that they could bring this into this classroom. Next, we're going to be talking about what annotating looks like in the classroom. So it can look like a lot of things, but today I'm going to teach you about the insert strategy. Now, if you don't know what the insert strategy is, it stands for Interactive Notation System to Effective Reading and Thinking from Braun and Estes in 1986. The insert strategy is a megacognitive strategy that students do while reading. It's a tactile and kinesthetic way to make meaning of what they're reading, and it can be used in all content areas. So you could use it in math, science, social studies, fiction, nonfiction. And as you can see on the screen, these are two examples of two different ways you can use the insert strategy. The one on the left is a way that you could use it when you're first introducing insert or even just introducing annotating, because it marks the things with an exclamation, a question, or a plus sign, and it's pulling out interesting facts, something that's confusing, and something that is new. So it's not specifically targeted towards a certain type of learning. It's just really trying to get them comfortable with going through a story and stopping and marking things. Whereas the one on the right is actually the strategy we're going to be using today when you have time to practice later, where they mark with a plus sign the characters, the setting with a triangle, and the events with a check mark. Ways you can differentiate this. This strategy can be spread across several days. You can first take a day per type of annotation. So, for example, if you were looking for just interesting facts, you can spend a whole day that they're marking the story or the passage of interesting facts. You can also say you are comparing and contrasting, like we will later today. If you have two stories, you could spend one day annotating and using the insert strategy on one story or passage and the next day on the other. Students can customize the style of annotations. They can use different shapes, or maybe they would rather use colors. They can use certain colors to annotate. Insert can be completed whole group, small group, or individually. And the type of annotations they're making can be differentiated. So not just the style of it, but the type. So for example, these two show two different types. One's pulling out interesting facts, confusing things, something that's new, versus the other one pulling out characters, setting, and events. Now, insert strategy can then be used with something to dive even deeper and summarize your annotations. This is a compare and contrast matrix. So Marzano from 2017 talks about a comparison matrix in a way that you can really visually transfer your annotations to find things that are the same and things that are different. It can be completed after the annotations with the insert strategy. This can be used in all different content areas: reading, writing, math, social studies, science, really anything where you're looking to compare things. So as you can see, the top one, you would put information from story one. Maybe you would write the title right here, and then you'd write what you found about the characters, the setting, and events through your annotating. And then you take story two and do the same thing. And then this chart is a good visual way to be able to quickly say, okay, these were some things that were the same. These were some things that were different. Ways that you can differentiate this. This matrix can also be spread across several days. You can spend a day transferring per story onto the matrix. So say you do day one on just filling in story one and day two on story two, or you're going to do day one on filling in characters for story one and story two. You can split it up several different ways depending on what your classroom needs. You can also spend a whole day on summarizing the findings. So after you fill in this matrix, you can decide that your class is just going to discuss it and talk about it. Or is your class going to take this matrix and turn it into a writing piece? This can be completed whole group, small group, or individual. Students can be given the topics along the top. And you can see on this example, there's one that's left blank, and that's intentional for students to be able to fill in the topic that they're comparing from the stories. You can even further extend this learning by using this for a voice and choice, where they can summarize and make a project of summarizing their findings through a video, through a paper, through Google Slides, or however they chose to represent their learning. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break. Now that you've had some time to look at the data, hear about the strategy and some things that we're going to use with the strategy, I want you to walk around, get water, use the restroom, and we will start back up in 15 minutes. All right, it looks like just about everyone is back, so we're going to get started. So now you've learned all about it, and it's your turn to try it. You'll find at your table a pencil, two short stories, and the insert strategy. What you're going to do is you're going to be doing one story at a time. You're going to use these annotations, a plus sign for characters, a triangle for setting, a check mark for events, and you're going to annotate the stories. Once you've annotated both stories, I want you to sit with a thumbs up so that way I know you are ready. We're going to spend about 15-20 minutes on this. All right, I see that majority of us have our thumbs up, which means we are ready to move on. Now, depending on your classroom and the type of students you have, this first part you did could be done in one day or split across two to annotate one story per day. And this next part with the matrix would be the following day. So you guys are now going to have the matrix along with the stories you annotated. And what I want you to do is take story one and fill in what you annotated about the characters, setting, and events. Then do the same thing for story two. After you filled in your matrix, I want you to just look at the matrix. See what you've noticed that is the same and that is different. In about 15 minutes, I'm going to have you share with the people around you to see if you guys are coming up with the same things that you found from annotating. Then, after we had about 5 minutes of sharing, we're going to share with the whole group and talk about what we found. So, you guys have about 15 minutes to transfer your learning and then share with a partner. All right, now that you've had some time to complete the matrix and discuss it with those around you, we're going to have a whole group discussion. What did you guys find that was the same across the matrix and that was different? I appreciate those of you who offered your insight and shared what you found. And now, what we are going to do is we're going to have a little debrief. Before we share a whole group, talk with those around you about what you felt went well with the insert strategy in the matrix. What was a little bit of a struggle using those? Do you have any extra comments, questions, ideas, concerns? And I'm going to be walking around and listening to your guys' conversations. We have about 5 minutes to do that before we're going to share a whole group. As I was walking around, I heard some really interesting comments about what we liked about it, maybe some areas that we could improve a little bit. And I'd be happy if some people would be willing to share for the whole group to hear. I think we did a great job today, not only being open to hearing some new ways that we can work on annotating, but actually being open to trying it and really putting everything we have into it to see, okay, how does this work? How can I bring this into my classroom? Here's some next steps. So this insert strategy and matrix are going to be provided to you along with an editable version so that you can alter it to fit your desired skill and whatever you're working on in your classroom. I'm encouraging everyone to leave this PD and go and just try it in your classroom. It's not going to be perfect. Things are going to go wrong, but I want to hear about it. What went well? What didn't go well? How can we change it? Start small. Explicitly teach how to annotate, model it, do it together, and scaffold to some independent work. Once you feel like your students have mastered or gotten a better grip on annotating, I would then add in the matrix and allow them to go even further with their annotations and comparing and contrasting and summarizing it. If you need some help, I'm happy to come into your classroom and help model it with you to your students. And I really want you to remember that every classroom looks different. Adjust this to meet your classroom needs. I appreciate you all being here today, working hard and having an open mind, and I'm excited to see how this strategy works in your classroom. And here are my references. Thank you.